Compound verbs. Like compound nouns, we have compound verbs. Verbs formed by compounding are much less usual than verbs derived by affixation. So we find verbs with affixes than by compounding. Nevertheless, a variety of types exist which may be distinguished according to their structure. For example, we can have two verbs, verbs, V stand for verb, stir fry, freeze dry. So these are two verbs and which have been joined together, compounded together to get a compound verb. Similarly, we can have noun plus verb, hand wash, air condition, steam, clean. So they are also verbs. Adjective plus verb, AV, dry clean, whitewash, and preposition plus verb, it's a very common, underestimate, outrun, overlook. So you can see that we can have compound verbs, right? Where either we can have both the verbs, or we can have noun plus verb, or we can have adjective plus verb, or preposition plus verb. Only the preposition plus verb, VP type, is really very common. However, and some compounds with under, over and out do not need to be classed as lexical items. Out can create a transitive verb meaning outdo in axing from any verb denoting a competitive or potentially competitive activity. For example, outsail, outsing, outswing, right? Outwin. For example, you normally use these words with out. New words with over, they are also created freely. Polish, over polish, criticize, over criticize, right? So they are very common compound verbs. All these compounds have a verb as the rightmost element, and also that with most of them the activity denoted by the compound as whole is a variety of the activity denoted by that rightmost element. So the rightmost element is actually the one that denote activity, which is the basic of a verb word. Let us call these compound right-headed, the rightmost element being the head. Most English compounds are right-headed, but not all. However, there is an exception, not all. On the analogy of sentences given in 1 to 4, in which we had compound examples of verbs, right? We have some right-handed compound adjectives. For example, noun adjective, sky high, coal black, oil rich. Similarly, adjective, grey green, squeaky clean, red hot. Preposition adjective, under full, over active. So these are examples of adjective, and they are on the analogy of the compound verb that we studied in sentences from 1 to 5. As with verbs, the preposition over is also readily used with adjective. So it means that to X. So it is a readily acceptable formation. So we can have indignant over indignant, smooth over smooth. In overactive, the head of the compound is the adjective active, not the verb act. So the structure can be seen that we cannot have three morpheme as over, act, and ev. Rather, we have two morpheme, active and over. So you can see over, active. Adjective with verb and adjective structure correspond to verb and verb that have been discussed at sentence 2 would resemble a hypothetical meaning. For example, float light. So we can say that light enough to float, and sing happy, happy enough to sing. One actual example is fail safe, that is designed to return to a safe condition if it goes wrong. Other such compounds scarcely exist. This reflects that relative reluctance of the verb to participate in compounding generally in English. So it means that in English there are fewer compound verbs. All the compounds that we have just discussed from 5 to 7 sentences, they are right-headed. So these adjectives, all sky high like adjectives, are right-headed like verbs. So there are also a few compound adjectives that are not right-headed, so they are left-headed. So generally they are right-headed like verbs. So these are how we make compound verbs.